Alright, game on. Hunter going up against Hawk, and we already have the game starting up here a little bit. A quick militia sent down to the bottom by Hawk, trying to bait the creeps over to attack the Ancient of War that Hunter put into place here. We're a little bit late to the party with the game, because we had a couple of problems on both sides, apparently with the headset. So we had a couple of pauses that we're skipping out here. But as you can see here in Amazonia, we have down to the bottom left the Peruvian player, Hunter. Had a couple of medical issues today, and it was questionable if he could even play today. Plays apparently in a wheelchair right now, but is definitely getting better from what I was told, and is currently, of course, trying to have a bit of an impact here in this game now too. So the militia attack didn't really quite have the impact that he was hoping for. Couldn't put too much damage onto the Ancient of War here, but still builds a bit of a scouting farm into the base of his opponent. And now you're always in that weird situation where as a Nightelf you have to think about, well, do I take that down? Do I really invest that time and keep a unit in my base, or do I just allow my opponent to get that free vision here? Archmage first on the side of Hawk, starting up to the top. The Russian player relying therefore on the water elementals in the early stages of the game. We're going to see how successful he's going to be with this. But of course, that particular farm already quite a nuisance. I mean, the first thing you're going to see is that we're going to have a Keeper as the first hero on the side of the Nightelf. Could have told you that without the farm, I suppose. Keeper is still insanely powerful, at least until we see the next patch. And then we're going to see a couple of nerfs coming in for that. And while we're seeing the creep started up now by Hunter and him trying to get the first few items and also, of course, experience, good circle for him. We're having in the middle of the map also another farm being built. So Hawk just trying to get the access to the tavern here already. Oftentimes you see farms being built close to a mercenary camp too, just so that you can buy a couple of those mercenaries, Forest Troll, Shadow Priest whenever available. And of course the water elemental creeped up to the top, with him now grabbing the Claws of Attacks +6. Pretty decent item here in general for like a ranged hero. Outside of that, it's mostly the Blade Master that's really happy about that kind of item. Level 2 for the Archmage as well. Brilliance Aura therefore for him. And we're already seeing the same happening on the other side, where the Keeper has taken the second level as well. As a random frog, by the way. Still the best critter in the entire game, no doubt about that. And a quick take on to tier 2. So with a farm, Hawk definitely knows what's happening here. And eventually, of course, this thing is going to be taken out. That's definitely going to happen. But for the time being, there's still a bit of extra information that's going to be provided for Hawk here, who hasn't really started his tech onto the next level yet. And is mainly running down here with a couple of footmen, trying to get some extra XP by taking down these treants. And of course pressuring the archers now as well. Don't see any kind of crazy shenanigans happening just yet, but again the entangle here on the water elemental. Both of them just attempting to take down the summonings here to make sure that they're getting some extra XP, but already the deny attempt from Hawk here attacking his own water elemental. And we're seeing the Keeper nearly on level 3. Also with the extra item, having the Ring of Protection +3. Archer still under pressure, but able to move away from this one. Quick look in the main base. We have the tech onto tier 2 now also started on the side of Hawk. Russian human player here trying to get that through. And Tree of Life still in the making. With a Hunter's Hall now coming up as well. And a couple of shots against that farm. This is actually one of these things, when it started to pop up, people were really thinking like, why the hell would you just like place farms all over the map? But considering that they're relatively cheap and still have a lot of hit points, it's a pretty cool tool for human players in general to keep vision on crucial spots on the map and also get access to mercenary camps, to laboratories sometimes, or to that occasional tavern that you see on the map as well, just to get easier access to that second hero if you want it, if you want to have a neutral hero and add it to you. So with that being said, Keeper here with a second set of Spider-Man socks already. Slippers of Agility +3 for him. Depending on the second hero, that's definitely going to do quite a bit of work for him. But we would assume that an Alchemist would be a great choice for him here once again, and that's of course more of a strength-based hero. And yep, there we have him. Alchemist already being put into play. We're still seeing the Keeper trying to get that water elemental and trying to take that down. And he gets the experience. Hawk attempted to kill it himself and deny the XP, but doesn't get it. And now what he's getting is an entangle to the face. And that Archmage needs to be a little bit careful, and it results in a Town Portal having to be used here, because the second entangle would have definitely been a little bit too much for him. It's actually kind of a bit of a shit hero if you think about it. I mean, the guy rides a horse, and that horse is basically a Heroes of the Storm pleb horse, because it can't even outrun a Keeper. Well, then again, Keeper's hooves too, so I guess it's kind of a bit of a fair fight. I feel like it becomes a little bit weird when you go up against an Alchemist or against something like that. Be that as it may, we're seeing now Hunter trying to be a bit more aggressive, and that's of course the dream. You get the reinforcements, get the entangle against the Rifleman. That's like absolutely perfect. And of course now also Alchemist on the side of our human player. Hawk adding it here with the healing spray as well. Alchemist versus Alchemist as second hero, stealing the tomb away actually. Alright. 31 supply against 36 right now. Even trying to get a bit of militia into play here. Needs to be careful with the Rifleman though. If that Rifleman runs straight into the Keeper again, then that's going to be a goner pretty quickly. Talking about putting pressure on and using Entangle. Archmage again under pressure, and that should be the end of him. If we have another Entangle being used, he is definitely going to be down, and yep, that's the end of that. Doesn't even have to drop the Entangle. Archmage is down, and Hunter is in a fantastic spot right now, early on in the game here. Taking that kill was definitely worth it, and now of course the attempt to get even a little bit more out of that can come in with the entire army that he still has. He can focus with the Rifleman in the back, for example. Healing spray is still coming through. Militia again pulled in, but pulls it back, so there's a lot of time lost here as well. Hawk again under pressure on the hero, and that's an Alchemist already dropped. Hunter is absolutely demolishing him here right now. Keeper this time doesn't really have enough mana. I didn't have enough to drop that Archmage here, but that was of course another big risk, and we still have that Rifleman also in a little bit of an awkward spot because that can still be taken apart as well. Experience-wise alone, it's already a tricky position, and it looks like the Rifleman might not even make it here. It's going to be a pretty close call. Trying to escape. Oh my god. Yeah, there we go. All right. The damage over time of the Alchemist takes it down finally. And that's now Rifleman number 2 that has been taken down. 2 of the heroes have fallen. The Keeper nearly on level 4 gets another Peasant as well. Things are looking good for Hunter at this point. Hawk definitely struggling in the setup here. And again, I have to point it out once more. Hunter had issues. He's playing from a wheelchair as far as I know, and it was very questionable if he would play at all. And he had a tough game against Focus here, his first best of 3 of the day, where he was absolutely demolished in 2 games, but now looking a lot better here. Double Ancient of Lore, getting the Abolish Magic, which is of course going to make it very tricky to get value out of the Water Elementals once that's going to come through. One Evolution and a pretty free creep here on the left side that puts the Alchemist already on level 2 right away. Now looking over the experience on the side of Hawk, I have to say that he's actually not looking too bad when it comes to hero XP. Considering that he lost 2 heroes, it's not too shabby, because his own heroes were pretty low. They didn't drop as much XP over to his opponent as could have been, so Hawk's still in the game here. 37 supply for him against the 39 that we're seeing for his Nightelf opponent, but still a setup in which he's now continuing to creep the map and putting a lot of focus on the getting additional experience for his heroes, and with a bit of item luck, they could definitely help him here. We have him already with a couple of priests here now too, and that's of course going to be very nice also with the spell against the Treants, always assuming that he has the mana to pull it off. Brilliance Aura is going to help with that. Has definitely been a bit stronger in the past, but he's going to have that on level 2 in just a second. Renegade Wizard goes down. Sobi Mask, another good item. That Alchemist is definitely going to have a lot of mana available for all of these fights to come with Brilliance Aura plus the Sobi Mask in a really good spot to make sure that his mana pool is always topped off here as well. 45 supply for the human, 39 for the Night Elf. And again, when it comes to items, we're currently seeing Hunter in a bit of a better spot. Staff of Preservation already on one of his heroes, has a Potion of Invulnerability on the Alchemist, Potion of Lesser Invulnerability on the Keeper, and in addition to that, we're also seeing him at the same time with the Scroll of Healing. So pretty decent items for him. And of course, now no expansion for either one of the players. So we're seeing both of them completely one-basing it here with that Rifle Caster combo that Hawk is currently putting into the field. But that Alchemist that we're seeing for his opponent, for Hunter, is nearly on level 3 right now. Dryads are also being attacked, and of course the damage over time through the Acid Spray is still coming through here. Dryad's also hopping away and should be able to escape this, but turnaround with a quick entangle again onto the Alchemist. But with all the Dryads being this slow, he needs to be careful. I'm actually surprised that he tried to turn this. Like, one Dryad goes down and the second one is so low that it's very questionable to really re-engage into that fight. He doesn't have a lot of arguments in his favor here, to be quite honest with you. Like, his army supply is way low. It's 46 supply against 33 that we're currently seeing here. And looking into the main base, he has the Tree of Eternity, and he's really adding the additional tech now as well, heading into Mountain Giants with a resistance skin. But for the time being, I would be a bit hesitant to really engage into a battle with the human player. You try to keep him on his toes, of course, and to harass him as much as you can while he's starting to creep, but now we have also a few sorcerers in the mix, and that slow is becoming an issue, even with the Dryads in play. Level 3 already on the Alchemist. Gets the item too, Ring of Protection here. Play against the Alchemist. There's the slow that I just talked about. Dryad without any dispel just yet, and even body blocking it with his own keeper. Gets the stuff of preservation through, but that Alchemist is still insanely low. Can of course heals at the Moonwells. Problem is, if he does that, he's basically draining them as well, and pretty quickly too. So Hunter should be a little bit careful with this. He's really low on those units. And, I mean, Hawk knows it too. Hawk is still continuing to creep because he says, like, dude, what do you want from me? Like, if you actually engage into that fight and I'm gonna get close to you, I'm gonna make sure that you regret it. And look at that Alchemist right now. Like, what are you gonna do with that guy? Like, he's not gonna do jack shit. You can't move in. The Moonwells are all empty. Night is now falling, so they're gonna regenerate now soon. But that's a level 2 Alchemist with basically no hit points and a potion of invulnerability here right now. First Mountain Giants are making it into the game. Level 3 dropping into the hands of the Alchemist on the side of the Nightelf player as well. More frogs. But it's just tricky because Hawk spent his time well making sure that he creeps. Went also into more casters, ton of priests now for him, 4 in total already, helps him really with the dispel and with the heals. Archmage doesn't have a town portal, so in the long run it might be something that he has to think about. Even more mana, gets a potion of greater mana here too, kind of overdoing it at this point actually. But yeah, nearly level 4, nearly level 5, Hero is definitely doing really well for him, and he's still on the path to creep. And he has 62 supply as well to boot, going into additional upgrades right now, having the +2 attack upgrades already on the side of his Rifleman. And here come, of course, the Mountain Giants. 3 already. Resistance skin is through, and that's the big problem. How do you break through the Mountain Giants? It was always one of the biggest issues. Potion of Invulnerability already being used on the Alchemist. I can't believe that he actually still has him in the fight here. Needs to be very careful and staff him out once that potion wears off, because 1-2 hits and that bad boy is a goner. Wants to keep him here for the sustain though at this point. Even Militia are now starting to move over here, and Hawk is still in a great spot. He has to somehow deal with those Mountain Giants. It's going to be tough, but there's not a lot of damage behind this, especially with the Alchemist already being this low. Portals him back just barely and heals him up at the Moonwells, but there's just no damage. He just doesn't have any damage. Hunter is sitting there with 3 archers, basically. You're not gonna do a lot with this. So, at this point, Hawk is just doing whatever he wants. We're still having that Orb of Venom, and that helps a little bit for the Keeper. It's additional +7 damage that he has right now. But I mean, look at the heroes here. The Alchemist about to hit level 4, the Archmage about to hit level 5, and the only thing that we're really seeing here is a very robust meat shield for Hunter, with the Alchemist finally coming in here, can add a bit to the damage output, but things are still starting to look a little bit tricky here. 1 priest still surviving, nice heal spray still coming through from Hawk here, making sure that he keeps the rest of his army alive too, but just look at that Keeper. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability is getting dropped here, but that bad boy is already on the run, and he's not going to make any big leaps in this fight any longer. Surround attempt even on one of the Mountain Giants gets staffed out, but there's just nothing that he can really use in terms of damage to kill anything here. And that's the biggest problem that he has. And that gives more and more time over to Hawk, who just simply moves in again, takes another creep down, gets the level 5 on the Archmage. Alchemist is level 4, and to add insult to injury, gets the Scourge Bone Chimes. Now again, Scourge Bone Chimes, if he at any point transitions into Knights, then that's going to help him of course a lot, but for the time being it's only the Alchemist that really benefits from that. Couple of stragglers in the back are getting picked off here by Hunter as he entangles the reinforcements that are coming in, trying to head for the Priest as well. His Keeper still incredibly low, nearly level 5, but yeah, it's basically just a hit and run approach that we're seeing from the Peruvian player. He's just attempting to make sure that he gets as much of that as possible. 50 supply now on the side of the Archmage, 51 actually. Either go full into the low upkeep or kill a unit to stay in the low upkeep here. Another Mountain Giant being trapped, but of course there's still that Staff of Preservation that gets used over and over again. The problematic part is really that those Moonwells are going to be drained now. And as you can see, we are about to hit daylight again, so the Moonwells are not going to regenerate anytime soon. And that is going to be a massive problem for him in the long run. We're having, for the Rifleman, +2 attack, moving down now, trying to force the cancel on the Tree of Life. And I mean, that's a no-brainer. That thing just got started, so there's absolutely no way for him to keep that. Both of them still playing one base here, but the item advantage definitely on the side of Hawk at this point. And again, the game started with him losing 2 heroes. It was in the early levels, so it wasn't really too much of an experience boost for Hunter, but it started out well for the Nightelf, but right now things are really starting to turn against him. The level 3 Water Elemental is going to do a huge amount of work, and if you look at the army composition here, we are not even having any Dryads at this point, so the spell that's available to Hunter is practically non-existent. Doesn't even add any Dryads, he's staying at the no upkeep, 50 supply for him, the same for the human player, and he's just continuing to creep. He's trying to get the additional gold to taking the creeps down, and he of course also wants to make sure that he has the extra items. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. It's also going to be another big boost in terms of getting the experience here for the Alchemist, moving the Archmage in so they can town port a little bit earlier. Hood of Cunning is going to be dropped, and at this point the portal back into the main base was forced through the attack that we saw from Hunter here, so I had to cut that a little bit short, but it's still a nearly level 5 Alchemist. Could be a little bit better, of course, if he would have been able to keep that Archmage away from the creep spot to make sure that all the experience of the creep goes over to the Alchemist, to the second hero, but it's still a pretty tricky spot. Now let's take a quick look into the main base. We have at this point already a castle tech absolutely completed. Workshop is also in place. Goes for the Mountain King as a third hero, and we have the first knights in the picture, or about to be. And that's really where the Scourge Bone Chimes, the Dreadlord Vampiric Aura comes into play. And once the Mountain King is there, that Keeper is going to get a bolt, like a hammer to the face. I can already promise you that much. I mean, once you have a Mountain King in action with this, you can also simply hand the Zombie Mask over if you really want and try and get a few additional hits through. If you put the extra pressure onto the Keeper, he's going to be in a world of pain. I mean, this is going to be absolutely disastrous for the squishies here for sure. And also, of course, it allows you to just go for full focus fire with the Riflemen that are in the process right now. 59 supply against 65. Things I feel are currently looking really good. The item advantage, or sorry, I should say the upgrade advantage, definitely goes over to Hunter though. He's currently sitting at a 2-2, 2 attack and 2 defense upgrade, 2 armor upgrades that we're seeing. Mountain King is making his way in, and yep, that is going to be a Staff of Preservation on the Alchemist. So I mean, the theme of all of these engages that we've seen so far, as we're having Hunter with another attempt to get his expansion into play, is simply that the Nightelf is trying to skirt around the edges, but he's not really doing too much in terms of actual fighting. He's just trying to keep the human player busy to get his expansion through, but eventually Hawk is going to force that fight. And I'm also a little bit worried about what happens when those heroes are hitting level 6, to be honest. If the game continues for a long time, that is going to be an issue. Double Water Elemental on the tree, and he does not even cancel. That might be the end of the Tree of Life here. One Water Elemental is down, but that could be a little bit tricky for him in the long run. He knows that the tree is there, and at this point, he doesn't really take care of it. So I feel this is going to be an easy snipe if he actually makes the way down. For now, Hunter is going to save it, but that army is just brutal that we're seeing here. Now, to be fair, we have actually higher numbers on the side of his opponent. 73 against 71 right now, but this is now a fight that you can definitely take. Level 3 Alchemist, level 4 Keeper of the Grove, not even not even having the level 5. And now it's just a matter of how the focus fire is coming through here. Detonate attempt into the backline, trying to hit all of the spellcasters. Hits a huge amount of them, and it's Mountain and King time. Let's see how much he can actually pull off here. Already trying to get the damage in. One of the druids immediately down. One bear down. A second one falling. No staffs. Hunter about to lose the Alchemist. Will have to staff it out if the focus fire is hitting him once again. And here already come the Militia trying to finally break through that. More and more units are falling and Hunter is just falling completely apart here. 58 against 66 supply right now. Only the Mountain Giants doing work. Even an illusion being thrown in the mix here to make it even more difficult for the human player. But another Druid of the Claw is dying and things are looking pretty devastating. Another upgrade, level 2 already on the side of the Mountain King. Level 5 for the Alchemist. Didn't have to use any of the items just yet. Pressure on the third hero, but he moves it into the back line, and this is not looking pretty whatsoever for Hunter. He's really falling apart against his composition with the Scourge, Bone Chimes, and all the additional support through the caster backline. Those Knights absolutely racking through that front line, doing so much work. And of course the Rifleman completely uncontested with a focus fire here. Mountain King not dying, gets the heals through with all of the priests, and then we have the Alchemist also doing a lot of work here to give the extra sustain through the human army. Focus onto the Tree of Life right now. That expansion is not for long, and if you look at the item setup that we're seeing here, still both of the main heroes have a Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. Level 5.5 on the Alchemist, on the Archmage already. The Alchemist himself is on 5, and this is just rough going here now for Hunter. He had a decent army size, but he's completely fallen apart. 48 supply for him, going up against the 69 that we're seeing for the Russian player here. And keep that Mountain King in mind, of course, as well, because that bad boy in the long run is also going to become a huge issue. Archmage and Alchemist as well. I mean, those two alone, just imagine what happens when that Alchemist is able to hit level 60 and get transmute. All those bears would be just completely useless. Attempt to go for an expansion right over here as the fight down at the bottom with the Tree of Eternity in play is already about to start. And here comes Hunter. He needs to break through this somehow, and he's going to try to. But at the same time, we have Inner Fire now being cast the entire time as well. We already saw that in the previous fight. That extra armor already without any Dispel on the other side. And then in addition to that, having the Life Leash through the Vampiric Aura is absolutely insane. The superior creep strategy that we saw from Hawk definitely paying off for him right now. He has the extra items and they are doing wonders in these fights right now. Again, the level 3 Alchemist as a second hero, it's not even comparable to what we're seeing from Hawk here. All the creeping that he's been doing just allowed him to have the extra numbers and have those extra power spikes for his heroes. Now already the Mountain Giants in trouble, going for the taunts continuously, but with the Inner Fire and only very little display in the backline, there's just no way. The GG called as Hawk takes game number 1. Game number 2. Hawk, starting at the bottom of Last Refuge here, has taken the lead in the series against Hunter to the top right, the Peruvian player. I hope that they provided a little bit of aloe vera to the players, because he got burned in that last fight. That was pretty brutal. That Inner Fire plus the Vampiric Aura plus the Priest heal, and on top of all of that also the heal coming through the Alchemist definitely made that human army nearly unkillable, and the Nightelf had a lot of problems breaking through that. It was absolutely insane. I mean, nothing died on the side of Hawk. It was really well done by him. Great army that he had there, good army composition, and Hunter just didn't have enough. So now in game number 2 we're going to find out if Hunter finds some kind of way to break through this and force the third game out of this. We're already having the Ancient of War built a little bit forward. In the last game we had Hawk with an attempt to use an early militia to draw those creeps over on Amazonia. You can do that quite a bit against Nightelf, because usually they attempt to access 2 spots at the same time. 2 of the creep spots. Archmage again, first on the side of Hawk here, so relying on the water elementals for the early creep. And one of the things that we should definitely see from Hunter here is working a little bit around Dispel in the game. I feel like that was one of the things that was definitely missing in his late game army composition on the first map, that he just didn't have anything to deal with the Inner Fire. and also like the water level 3 water elementals that were in. There were way too few dryads. He tried to bring in a few at the end of the game, but even the wisp detonates didn't really do too much work for him. He attempted to move some into the back army and try to detonate them on the casters, but all of those things didn't quite work out the way that he needed to in order to make a difference here. But we're going to see how it's going to happen in this game, because Hunter originally actually started really well into the map. Double kill against both of the heroes that we saw from the Russian human player. But then, of course, the tide started to turn after Hunter just couldn't really force any of these fights and found himself into really weird situations where he was trying to... I mean, it really felt a little bit like he was trying to force Hawk back and make sure that Hawk couldn't creep too much, but Hawk just was absolutely unimpressed and said, dude, I know you got nothing on me right now. Started to creep the camps anyways, dealt with the Nightelf pressure at the same time and got the experience, whereas the Nightelf player just never really got any here. Great start again for Hawk. Hilarious flute of accuracy. I mean, the human player's wet dream if you're planning to go into Rifleman in the first place. So at this point already having the True Shot aura, that's going to help him for the Archmage, it's going to help him for the mercenaries that he buys here, it's going to help him for Rifleman, it's going to help him for the water elementals. This is a fantastic item for him to get. Aura items in general are great, and in the last game he found the vampiric aura of the Dreadlord. Now we're seeing the Priest of the Moon aura coming through, and that's already a big of a blow to Hunter, who would have loved to get an item like this himself. But it just shows again that these creep patterns are fantastic for the human player. And it's one of the advantages to be able to rely on Militia as well, because if you have Militia as a tool to just emphasize the early game creep camps a little bit more, you can just go way more aggressive with all of that. And that's exactly what he's been doing here. So at this point we have the Forest Troll Shadow Priest that's going to help him to deal with the Keeper of the Grove when it ever moves in. And we're seeing him with that setup now immediately focusing also on the gold mine down here, taking down the Orgai Magi, Circular Nobility, an early level 3 for him as well. So Water Elemental on level 2 as it stands, and he can definitely shift up the dynamic of the game a little bit, head into an early expansion here too. One Evolution already being used to scout a little bit, but let's see what we're having here. A bit of a creep check happening actually, and that forces Hunter back now. Not a good start for Hunter into this. 2 treants are being taken down as well. Archmage gets even more experience. And we're gonna see the last Forest Troll Trapper very likely die as well. Yep, taken down by the human player, so he gets the experience here as well. More pressure onto Hunter, and I mean, this is just not looking pretty. Good dispel here, great reaction, but with the focus fire, the Forest Troll Shadow Priest is still falling. Keeper still not level 3, and now forced back only on half HP. And let's not forget, behind all of this, the expansion is currently being built. So we are seeing a fantastic position for Hawk in game number 2 here. Nice attempt here by Hunter to activate the creeps, and snares come through and stop the human player. And Hawk is just simply saying, you know what? That's fine. I'm going to take the creeps down. That's absolutely okay. I'm not really worried too much about that. I chased you away already. There's no pressure on my expansion. I get even more experience. I get more items. Gets a potion of greater mana. I mean, things are really looking good for Hawk right now. Hilarious Flute of Accuracy, a bit of a stats boost here as well. And if there's at any point an attack towards his expansion, he can rely on a really deep mana pool to drop even more water elementals into the mix here. Archmage is nearly hitting level 4 right now. No tech into tier 2 just yet, but adding the blacksmith here, of course. With Hilarious Flute, you really would like to have a couple of riflemen in the mix as well, so that not only the water elementals and the Archmage benefit from the flute, but also some other parts of the army here. In the meantime, looking over towards our Nightelf player, let's see how exactly he's going to try and change things up here. We have another Ancient of War coming in, but he has just now the Tree of Ages, and you can already see a little bit of a pressure play against the treants here. More experience into the hands of the Archmage, who is by now level 4, and outside of that, no tech structures just yet. We have double Wand of Illusion, Now in the days of old, that was sometimes used to execute a very early timing and try to just confuse the opponent with additional 5-6 units that you have here. If you have Hunters, for example, or just go into the additional copies from the hero to try and execute some timing attacks. Very unlikely to have a lot of a benefit here in this particular setup, because what we are seeing for Hawk is just extremely powerful. Even more creeping happening. And the one thing that really concerns me a little bit is that he's already about to steal also a lot of the camps away from Hunter. So Hunter is currently just creeping all the way up at the top, going for his own mercenary camp and trying to see what he gets there. But his shop is being taken away from him now as well. That's another item that gets dropped then. Belt of Giant Strength. Not quite an aura item, but at least it's the perfect item here for the Alchemist when it comes to a stat boost for him. So this is going to be tough to deal with. It's going to be pretty tricky. Down here we have now also the first Arcane Vault in play. We have the second tower being built up. Expansion is done, but the tech is also pretty much started. Lumber mill coming in, and of course we're seeing now the upgrades for the riflemen that are currently being produced here. But time is honestly working against Hunter. I mean, for him the idea has to be, okay, I need to execute some timing here, and we're looking at glaive throwers that are being built. Additional upgrades coming through with a +2 now at this point. But this really needs to have a lot of success, because so far things are not really looking too pretty. He gets an Ankh of Reincarnation and has a Belt of Giant Strength, so he has a pretty much unkillable Alchemist that's going to be very tough to deal with. But that attack that he's currently trying to execute has to really pack a punch, because if he doesn't, then this game is pretty much already over. The stat advantages are, the number advantages through items are already pretty significant. 44 supply right now against 58 already. And we're seeing now Staff of Teleportation being dropped. Oh my god, look at those circlets. Triple Circlet of Nobility. We still don't have Tier 2 completed though. And there's no units at the tavern just yet, so he's very likely trying to rely on a second tier as well. Here come the copies, already being focused here, but in the back, the double glaive throwers. We need to also see the Zeppelin, so that's definitely a great tool if you're trying to keep those units alive. Ilaria's Flute already getting some extra damage in here for sure. That Archmage on level 5, Water Elementals on level 3 for now, of course. And here comes the attack from Hunter. He needs to make this one count. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Hawk is now trying to send a couple of units over, at least something over to the taverns so that he can access the second hero as well. But he's already fending the attack off quite nicely here, getting one of the glaive throwers with the Water Elemental alone, and the Militia coming in now as well. So for now, for the time being, the Nightelf player has to be cautious here. 60 supply on the side of Hawk. Hunter himself here with a level 2, level 3 Alchemist right now, trying to set this up again and moving in, having his own Keeper on level 4. Good auto attack damage thanks to the items here with the Mantle of Intelligence plus 15 attack for him already. But here comes now also the Footman, and if he doesn't go down, he will be able to access the second hero any second. There it is. Alchemist already being bought, more glaive throwers coming in, and definitely getting some damage in. I'm just not sure if that's really going to be enough. There were a couple of items lying around down here as well that the Alchemist can now pick up, and he's just trying to defend, but most of those riflemen are really low. If he can keep them alive and get the extra heal, it would be great for him. But still, Hunter is under pressure right now. He needs to do something here. He's trying to get his own expansion into play, but in an ideal world, he would still be able to do a little bit more damage against the expansion down here. And he has the glaive throwers for sure to get that through. Once again, trying to make that work now with those illusions, blocking the front here, but there's not too much damage. And again, the heal spray is coming into play for Hawk, as well as the first skill on the Alchemist, dropping a couple of those circlets also over in the end of inventory of the second hero. And Hawk for now is fending Hunter off, forces him back here. Archmage, by the way, nearly level 6, doesn't even have to resort to his town portal because he's still continuously being healed here, and Ilaria's Flute is doing so much work. The 2 extra damage that we are seeing currently through the Rifleman, and then also the 8 attack damage on the side of the Archmage himself with those 2 circlets of nobility are really paying off right now. 67 supply against 33 for Hunter. Things are not looking good. Hunter is playing absolutely fantastic. I'm really liking the way that he creeps as well. Like, he dominates the creep routes on the map right now, taking the experience away from his opponent, securing it for himself. And to be fair, he got rewarded with a lot of really great items, which made his job a little bit easier too. Orgalord goes down and he gets a Cloak of Flames now too. So that Alchemist is starting to become a beast. The Archmage alone is already extremely insane, and this is not going to make things any better for Hunter. I can tell you that much. Having the Gauntlets of Augur Strength here, a lot of hit points on the Alchemist, and now of course also the Cloak of Flames here. Well, on the other side of the map, we're still seeing Hunter aiming for a bit of attack here, trying to find some kind of angle. And of course that Tree of Life is eventually going to come into play as well. But 39 Supplier speaking a sending a loud message here against the 64. Level 3 on the Alchemist, not even a cancel, takes that one out. And it's already becoming a little bit of a base race, because the only thing that Hunter can do at this point is try and use those Glaive Throwers to take structures down. And he does exactly that. Castle Attack already on the side of his opponent, but losing already some of the structures. And here's the pressure play. Basically just saying, dude, portal back. I need time, I need that expansion. Make sure that you portal back, or I'm going to take your main structure. And yep, there's the TP. So at this point, Archmage is going to come back. Aggressive portal, nearly level 6 for him. Hunter also portaling away here. One Glaive Thrower still going down, but that buys the Nightelf at least a bit more time. It's a squishy army though. I mean, the Glaive Throwers are really doing an enormous amount of damage, but just look at this. It's just, Hawk is just going, there is no wasted motion at all. He's moving always from one move into the next. He chases the Night Elf army, switches over to creep another spot. He has to town portal back, still has a couple of creep spots available, and immediately focus on them. Gets rewarded with the Mana Stone, nearly level 4 for the Alchemist. There's just no wasted time here. He moves from one position into the next to either establish an expansion, get higher level heroes, try and set an attack up against his opponent, and it's working extremely well. Another town portal being used here immediately, and once again, that Alchemist might be in trouble. Actually, the same is also true for the Keeper. There's not even a Staff of Preservation. I actually assumed that he had one, but he doesn't, so he forces his opponent back, buys himself a bit more time. But by now, Hunter at least has his own expand set up and is getting a few more wisps into this. 42 supply for the Night Elf against 64 for the human player. In terms of upgrades, we're seeing 2 attack and 1 armor upgrade for the Rifleman, and of course still have to mention once more Ilaria's Fruit of Accuracy. We're also seeing no town portal anymore for Hunter, so he's really starting to run a little bit low here. Went with the Alchemist over and got a town portal, and moves away right now with the Chemical Rage, trying to rejoin the rest of his army. But yep, that Archmage is what worries me the most, because that bad boy is going to hit level 6 anytime, any second, but that's definitely going to do some work. For now, Brilliance Aura, of course, on level 2, having that True Shot Aura there as well, not really holding too many additional items, didn't really shop too much, but he's putting his opponent a bit into a corner, and there's not really too much Night Elf there. There's a lot of human though, and he will have to use the town portal that he just bought. And he should probably use that rather sooner than later, because this is not going to be pretty for him. Archmage on level 6, and he went straight into the mass teleportation, is already using that. So things are starting to become a little bit hairy. The mobility is now there for Hawk, and that is just absolutely fantastic. He can jump all over the map with this, and it's going to be great for him. Level 6 for the first hero, and he's still trying to get the additional experience for the Alchemist, who's already sitting at nearly level 4, going straight for the next camp, Gargantuan Sea Turtle. Like, the difference in amount of experience that we're seeing for the 2 players just from neutral creep camps alone is crazy. Level 4 for the Alchemist, and now he's going for the Gargantuan Sea Turtle, and that's of course also going to drop another item into his hands. In this case, we have Ring of Regeneration. Knights are joining the fun now too. I mean, 75 supply already for Hawk. Has, at this point, let's look into the main base for just a second. No additional upgrades being researched, but he goes into the Mountain King again as his 3rd hero. A little bit of a pressure play here with the Keeper alone, who by now has a Staff of Preservation. No Staff of Teleportation though. How long does that Mountain King last? And Stormbolt. Yep, there we go. Stormbolt is being hit. Here comes the Alchemist. He has to put the town portal over. That's exactly what he does, and he will have to use it. If he doesn't use it, he's gonna fall. Alright, instead the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability is being used, and he's still on the run. Tries to go for the Mountain King right now. There's actually a lot of damage on the MK, and the MK goes down in your face. Drops the 3rd hero here. Nice job by him. Massive damage, of course, with those glaive throwers. That was very well done by him. Could definitely also see very soon... Oh, there's actually one. The Staff of Sanctuary on the Archmage. A little bit surprised to see that. He might not have gotten in range to staff the MK out. I was actually about to say that he should pretty much get himself a Staff of Preservation. Got that now, so must have been outside of range or not have that yet. But of course, the mobility with the mass teleportation is just brutal. Immediately jumping up here, putting the pressure on. Down here, another base is already being built, and he's actually giving it up. Hunter is saying, yeah, I can't face this right now. My keeper has eaten dirt the entire game right now and is really low. So instead he's trying to apply some counter pressure. But again, mass teleportation being used here right away. And he couldn't even trade expansion for expansion. This is just brutal for Hunter. Hunter is getting spanked right now. Like, currently he is not enjoying this tournament at all. Then again, I have to come back to it. I've mentioned it a couple of times already, but we have to give the guy some credit. I mean, he is currently playing from a wheelchair, as far as I know. There were pictures on Twitter earlier about it, because he had thrombosis or something. He went to the hospital yesterday, missed out on some practice time, and still said, nope, I'm not going to forfeit any of my games. I'm going to play here. So this is definitely not the optimal condition for him to be playing, but he is throwing everything he has against his opponent. But we have to give Hunter some credit as well, and not only just chalk it up to the problems that Hunter's experiencing here. It's pretty crazy how well Hawk is playing this right now. He's playing nearly a flawless game, again exploiting some weaknesses in his opponent's play too, but he's playing extremely well here. He's all over the place right now with his movements. He's setting up another expansion here too, and by now we're seeing him with 80 supply against the 61. Again, the mass teleportation coming through, bit of the defensive position that he takes with a portal here. But yeah, it's looking extremely good for him. Medallion of Courage now taken as well. And here comes the mass damage from the glaive throwers in the back. The tangles through on those knights as well. Staff of Preservation not used. Loses the knight actually. But those mountain giants are not looking too healthy either. And this is just a massive army upgraded to 2 attack and 1 defense upgrades. Barely the Town Portal coming through. Barely. 16 hit points. Had 10 HP, and there's the GG as Hunter realizes this is not going to happen. 2 expansions against none. He taps out, and that's the 2-0 victory for Hawk.